sometimes when you in it, you don't really realize how bad it is until you take a step back and assess the situation. My team stinks. Okay, we're a 1-win team. We're 1 of 10 teams with 1 win or less. And I didn't realize how bad it was until I took that step back and said, damn, it's bad. Who else could it be? Me, Louie Tee. Welcome to the 102nd installment of the Louie Tee Network Podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie Tee. Thank you for joining me. Week 6, almost in the books. Got 2 games on Monday. Another Monday doubleheader. You know what? I could kind of get used to this. Just don't come after my Tuesday, Wednesday, or anything like that. But, you know, I could do 2 on Monday. I've done it multiple times this year. This will be the 3rd time we've done 2 games on Monday night. Week 1, we did it. Week 4, we did it. We're doing it again here in week number 6. I don't mind. I really don't. And we got 2 really good games, too, to boot. You know, we get the Chiefs and Bills in an hour or so. That's a hell of a game. It's 2 4-1 teams right there. That was supposed to be a Thursday night game, so I'm glad they didn't rob us of a primetime game between 2 of the best teams in the AFC. And then you get Cardinals and Cowboys as a nightcapper. That's not going to be too shabby either. 2 teams that can score. Should be a lot of fun. We'll break those down and preview those games at the end of the show. We'll go slate skating here in a little bit, go around the league, look at week number 6, talk about what transpired, some surprises, some games that went exactly the way we thought it would, and all the other games in between. But before we do that, you know what we have to do. And so without any further ado, let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie Tee Double E. Let me open you up, get you thinking a little bit. So I was talking to the Washington fan base yesterday after the game, and they were pissed. And they were letting me have it because I'm still being optimistic. I'm still glass half full, and they're not trying to hear it. Most of them, at least. And that's fine. I was talking to somebody last night on the overtime show, the Sunday night overtime show, and I said, look, I will never get mad at Washington fans because they don't know how to feel anymore. They think they know, but they have no idea, but they don't know because they just are confused. The organization has done a number on them for the last 2 decades to the point now where they don't know if they're coming or going. They're happy, they're mad, they're sad, they're glad. They don't know what the hell is going on. They just know that they're tired of losing. And they're trying to figure out ways to get out of this abyss. And some people think it's go 1-15 and draft Trevor Lawrence. Other people think it's, hey, let's just find a way to win and we'll figure it out as we go. Some people are like, hey, let's go get Cam Newton. We'll figure it out. We don't know what the hell's going to happen. But I said all of that to say this. We're bad. We're 1-5. And, you know, I knew we were bad. And I knew that, you know, you look around the league and you say, man, there are a lot of bad teams. I didn't realize there were this many of them, though. And, you know, what's crazy is, again, when you take that step back and you start looking around the rest of the league, you know, because in my mind, I always think about 4 or 5 teams. Like, you know, the NFC East as a whole stinks. I don't like to include Dallas in that conversation because I think they're the class of the division. But the Eagles stink, the Giants stink, Washington stinks. And then I start thinking about the Jets stink, the Jaguars stink. And that's usually where I stop. But then when you expand that net and you cast a wider net, you start looking at all the rest of these teams that only have 1 win. The Texans are a 1-win team. The Vikings are a 1-win team. The who else? The Chargers are a 1-win team. There's a lot of these teams where you go, whoa, it's a lot of us. So I'm looking at the draft order right now. It's too early to do this. I know. I understand this. But I was looking at the draft order because, you know, there's so many sites now for this. This is how you know this has become a real thing. This is like a niche thing now. There's actually a site called tankathon.com and different sites that follow this stuff where teams are really bad and where you are in the draft standings. We're 6 weeks into the season and you're talking about tanking. It's ridiculous. I mean, some fans have no decency about themselves. You're 6 weeks into a season where you still got a chance to win a division and you're talking about tanking. There were people talking about tanking after week 2. after week 3. It's ridiculous. Have some pride about yourself, okay? But I digress. I'm looking at this draft order, and the Jets right now obviously are the only winless team left in the league. They're number 1 overall. They're 0-6. I don't know when they're going to win a game. They're really bad. And when I say bad, I mean they're 0-16 worthy bad. They didn't score a point yesterday. They're really bad, and unless something changes here shortly, they could go 0-16. Seriously. I mean that. And I don't say that very often. And I don't take 0-16 lightly. You have to be terrible, next level terrible, not to win a game in this league. You can luck up and fall into a win in this league. I don't know if they're capable of doing that right now. Anyway, Washington is number 2. They're 1-5. The Giants are number 3. They're 1-5. The Falcons are 1-5. They're number 4. The Jaguars are 1-5. They're number 5 currently in the draft. The Vikings are 1-5. They're number 6 currently in the draft. If you're a fan of the Houston Texans, this has got to be the worst situation possible. You know what it reminds me of? Being a Washington fan. Look, anytime you describe something as being the worst situation possible, trust me, I've been through it already as a Washington fan. So I can explain to you what you're going through before you actually go through it, because I've been through it. You're sitting here at 1-5 with the 7th pick in the draft right now, and you won't get to make that pick. That pick is going to the Miami Dolphins. So you're stinking in vain right now. Nothing worse than that. When we made the Robert Griffin III trade, we made that trade thinking, hey, we're going to be good. So we don't really care where that pick ends up. We had just won the division the year prior, so we're thinking, doesn't really matter. You know, we gave those picks up in 2012. We won the division that year. We're thinking, hey, the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to make a run at this thing. We'll be in the playoffs. I don't care where that pick is. It'll be in the back end of the first round. And then we ended up being one of the worst teams in the league that following year in 2013. That was the all-in for week 1 Robert Griffin III campaign that went horribly wrong. And the Rams ended up with the number 2 pick in the draft. Our number 2 pick in the draft. You could end up in that same situation with you're not going to end up, because I'm going to explain the difference between these teams that are sitting here in the top 10. The Chargers are 1-4, and they're 8th in the draft right now. And then the Eagles and Bengals round out the top 10. Eagles at 9 at 1-4-1. Bengals at 10 at 1-4-1. So when you look at this group of 10 teams with 1 win or less, there's a way to categorize them and separate them from each other. You've got the teams that can score. And if you can score, and even if you can't stop the other team from scoring, if you yourself can score, you're going to win some games. And so I look at a few teams on this list and say they're not going to end up with 3 or 4 wins just off of the strength of their offense. So those teams right there, Atlanta, Minnesota, and the Texans. So you may even be able to throw the Chargers in there. I'm not comfortable throwing the Chargers in there quite yet. But those 3 teams right there, I look and I say they can score. I don't trust the Eagles, even though I feel like they can score. I don't trust them enough to be able to say, nor the Bengals. I don't trust either of those teams enough to say that they're consistent enough to be able to score week in, week out. The Falcons, the Vikings, and the Texans all can score week in, week out. The Vikings just gave up 40, but they're capable of scoring 40 in any given week. They didn't have Dalvin Cook. That really hurt them. They're a different offense, dramatically different with no Dalvin Cook. And even though I like Alexander Mattison, he's not Dalvin Cook. He's all right, but he's not real. So they can score. So those teams aren't going to finish 3-13. Off the strength of their offense alone, they're too good to do that. Then you get the next group. Hey, they play some quality defense, and they can score enough to win some ball games. And that group goes as follows: Chargers, Eagles, and I think that might be it. I don't trust the Jaguars, and I don't trust the Bengals. So that leaves you with 5 teams essentially that could end up in the top 5. Now, any of these teams could break out, win 3 out of 4, and they're no longer in this conversation. But let me tell you right now, the Jets, Washington, Jaguars, and Bengals, to me, are the 5 teams out of this top 10 that stink, that I look at and say, you could easily end up with 3 wins this year. Easily. When it's all said and done. Dust settles, smoke clears, you're 3-13. Because you're not consistent enough offensively, and defensively, you're an enigma. Any given week, the Jaguars could show up defensively. Although I've seen them stink it up on defense more than I've seen them stop teams, I don't have any confidence in the Jaguars defense at all. This isn't the Jaguars defense of 2-3 years ago that was dominant. They're a shell of themselves. So I don't believe in Jacksonville and their defense. I believe more in their offense than I do their defense, and even that is questionable at best. With the Bengals, they got a young team, especially Joe Burrow, but they went to Indianapolis, who was a 3-2 team coming into week number 6, and they put up 21 points within the first 17 minutes of that game. They were up 21-0 on the road before relinquishing that lead in the third quarter, maybe the fourth quarter is when the Colts finally made that full comeback to take the lead and win that football game. But they've shown the ability to score. They've shown the ability to play some good enough defense, i.e. week 1 versus the Chargers, i.e. week 3 versus the Eagles. They've been in some games. I don't trust them. Washington, their offense is putrid. They can barely score 20 points. Their defense is an enigma. Of all the teams left, they might have the best defense, but you won't be able to tell it because they don't generate turnovers and they usually don't get stops when they have to get stops. The Giants may have the best defense of this group. They seem to be the most consistent. However, offensively, they're just as bad as the Jets. They're horrendous offensively. These 5 teams have a chance to really be bad. 1 or 2 of them could break out. I surmise when it's all said and done, and I'm a homer, so shoot me, but I think that when it's all said and done, Cincinnati breaks out of this rut, so does Washington. That leaves the Jets, the Giants, and the Jaguars battling for who's going to have the right to draft Trevor Lawrence if you so choose. That's the way I see this playing out. Because these 10 teams, all 10 of them may end up with top 10 picks. It's not inconceivable. Don't forget, there's some teams on the outskirts. Like, literally, when I tell you a third of the league is bad, I really mean that. Like, there are some teams on the outskirts of this list that just have 2 wins. Like Denver, for instance. That's a 2-win team. Detroit is a 2-win. Like, they're not that good. These are some teams that could be funky as well. New England's a 2-win team. We don't know what the hell the Patriots are going to do. I don't think they're in this conversation, though. But I look at Denver, I look at Detroit, and I'm like, hey, y'all look funky, too. Don't just because you won this week and got away from the 1-win conversation, don't think you've escaped. You stink, too. It's that whole, hey, man, they got us. You and your 2 homeboys, y'all go and y'all try to steal some candy from 7-Eleven, and one of y'all get caught, and two of y'all over there hiding behind a car, and the one person that got caught says, "Hey man, y'all can come out. They got us." No, buddy, they didn't get us. They got you. I'm that guy that, hey, we stink. Hey, come on, man, they got us. Come on, Denver. Come on, Detroit, they got us, man. We all stink. Come on. They're like, hey, look, don't involve us in that conversation. We got 2 wins. We just won a game. Don't talk to us. No, y'all stink too. It's bad. It's the haves and the have-nots. And I don't know if I've ever seen the disparity this wide. It's ridiculous. Literally, a third of the league has 2 or less wins after 6 weeks of football. This is insane. And there are even a couple of 3-3 teams that I'm looking at and I'm like, hey, Miami, you're much better, but how much better are you really? You did just blank the Jets. Seriously, it's the Jets. Now, I got to respect what they did to San Francisco. That's respectable right there. Because especially after seeing what San Francisco did to the Rams, you're like, okay, I respect that win that they had over there across the bay in week 5. But man, it's a lot. Either you're really good or you're really bad. And it's almost like a microcosm of our economy. Either you have money or you broke as hell, but the middle class is shrinking, both in our economy and in the NFL. Either you struggling over here or you well off. You doing good. You're fine. We got to find a way to bridge that gap a little bit better, man. It's really bad. Either you're 4-2, you're 4-1, or you're 5-1, or you could be 6-0, or you're 1-5, you're 1-4-1, you're 2-3. Yikes! It's really bad. They're not enough. There's like 2 or 3-3 teams. There's no middle class. Either you stink or you're really good. And it's crazy. But I digress. I think that's 2 of those. I'm going to make sure I stay under my 5.5, my 5.5 for the day as we go ahead and transition to Slate Skatin. Let's go ahead and put the skates on. I'm going to put my rollerblades on. We're going to take a trip around this league real quick. I'm going to do this as fast as possible because we got 4:30 football today. I don't want to hold you longer than I need to. I want to let you get to your football game in peace. Then we'll come back and break it down when it's all over. And then that will transition right to Monday Night Football. So let's get to Slate Skatin, shall we? Let's start in Tennessee. AFC South family business. If these 2 teams say they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's AFC South family business. Man, was this some great family business here as the Houston Texans took on the Tennessee Titans. And this is the reason why Houston won't end up in this discussion for a top 5 pick, because they got Deshaun Watson. They shouldn't even be here in the first place. But because they took so damn long to get rid of Bill O'Brien, they find themselves in a 1-5 hole now after this loss. Now, they did something really questionable in this game. First and foremost, 42-36 overtime victory for the Titans. Man, was this a fun game to watch. Probably the best game of week number 6 to this point. This was a lot of fun. Ebbs and flows, back and forth. You get a touchdown by the Texans. They're ahead 23-21. Then you get a 94-yard run for Derek. Does anybody in the league bust off more 90-plus yard runs than Derrick Henry? Seriously, this guy is amazing. And I was watching him because this wasn't like some of the other big runs where, he breaks it off and then there's one guy that may be able to catch him and he just can't. Or, the Jacksonville run where he stiff arms 9 guys and then takes off. This was one of those, he had to really be patient at the line of scrimmage, find the hole, and then accelerate. There were 4 dudes chasing him. And none of them could catch him. It was amazing. And that's when you are reminded that this guy is a freak. He's 6'3", 6'4", 250, and guys can't catch him from behind. And I remember saying when he got drafted out of Alabama, I've never seen a guy in the SEC catch this man from behind. And I said, I don't know what that means, but the SEC is one of those conferences that I trust that everybody's fast. So if nobody in that conference is able to catch him from behind, I surmise that no one's catching him at the next level. So far, I've been proven right. No one's been able to catch this guy from behind. It's amazing to watch him run. And he had over 200 yards rushing. I told you last week, I really like Anthony Ferkser. He had over 100 yards in this game, and I think 1 or 2 touchdown grabs. A.J. Brown is a legit number 1 for them. Had the game-tying touchdown grab that sent it to overtime. Henry took over in the extra frame. And Ryan Tannehill had over 360 yards passing in this game. When they need him, he shows up. So they're a complete team. Now, I still worry about them defensively. And Deshaun Watson had his way with them. So I talked about the ebbs and flows in this game. So he goes off, does Henry for that 94-yard run, gives them back the lead at 28-23. All Watson does at that point is throws 2 passes to Will Fuller, and just like that, they're in the end zone. I mean, it was like boom, boom, touchdown. And they're back ahead. And it was just this crazy ebb and flow between these two teams. They take the lead 30-28. I thought where the mistake was made, though, in this game was Romeo Crennel had a chance to kick an extra point to go up 8. Score was 36-29 at that juncture of the game. Texans had an opportunity to kick the extra point after a late touchdown to Randall Cobb, and it would have given them an 8-point lead. And this is where this whole analytics bullshit gets on my nerves, and teams just don't know how to use analytics. Because analytics, they do come into play at times, but this wasn't the time for you to go all analytical bullshit on me. Kick the damn extra point, go up 8. Don't try to go up 9 and say, hey, we got them by 2 scores now. We got them. No. You go and kick the extra point. You go up 8 and you make them have to score a touchdown and the 2-point conversion to tie. Force them to have to do that. If they do it, then you tip your cap and you say, you got me. What you don't do, though, is go for 2, don't get it, and they had a wide open receiver. Brandon Cooks was wide open, but it got batted down at the line of scrimmage. And now all they need is a touchdown and an extra point to send this game to OT. And Ryan Tannehill delivered. Took him right down the field, hit A.J. Brown with 4 seconds left in regulation. Everybody thought they were going to spike the ball. He throws a beautiful ball, corner of the end zone, but Brown goes and gets it, gets both feet down, under booth review, comes back that it's going to be upheld, touchdown, tack on the extra point, let's go to play some extra football. And you get beat. Titans win the toss. Derrick Henry runs it down your throat. You lose the football game. Make them go for 2. Anyway, Deshaun Watson was fabulous in this game. He gave his team a chance. Unfortunately, I don't know what the hell happened to the Texans defense over the years, but they've gotten dramatically worse. And they can't stop anybody. And they give up 42 points. Lose to the Titans, who remain undefeated on the season at 5-0, 42-36 in a whale of a football game. Go treat yourself to a fun game if you haven't watched this one, because it was a ton of fun as the Titans remain undefeated with the win. And the Texans, unfortunately, now dropped to 1-5. I thought Romeo Crennel made a mistake by going for 2 instead of kicking the extra point. Don't know if they would have won. The Titans were capable of getting that 2-point conversion and tying the game, but make them do it. Make them do it. You didn't make them do it, and it ultimately cost you this ball game. You go on to Baltimore at Philadelphia. The score in this game, I don't think really indicates how much the Eagles were dominated in this game, but to their credit, they came back and fought. But the reason the Eagles are going to remain bad this year is because their head coach is a buffoon. And I mean that in the most nicest and sincere way, okay? Because I respect the hell out of Doug Peterson. He's won a Super Bowl. He understands offense. But he makes some of the most, and this is the shit that used to piss me off when he first got the job, when I said, this guy will be fired in 2 years because he's doing stupid shit. So, and I'll explain, but Baltimore is 5-1 after getting this win. They're with the 30-28 victory over the Eagles, who are now 1-4-1 on the season with the 30-28 loss. Baltimore was up 17-0. Lamar Jackson was running his ass off. He had a long touchdown run of like 35 yards. He had a naked boot essentially at the end of the game when the Eagles were looking to try to find a way to get the football back once more. After the onside kick, he runs a naked boot, runs for about a good 25 and slides inbounds. They couldn't stop him on the ground. He was a problem. They did a really good job of spreading the football around. Hollywood Brown, who had been really big for Lamar in the early portion of this season, really didn't touch it that much in this game, but they spread it around to everybody else. Willie Snead and Miles Boykin and Andrews and even Boyle had a touchdown in this game. They spread the football around really well. Duvernay was a nice little part of the offense early on in this game, as he usually is. And I thought they did some good things. I was surprised that they allowed the Eagles. They had them 30-14 midpoint of the fourth quarter, and it's almost like they put it on cruise control. Allowed the Eagles to go down, make some plays, score a touchdown, get the 2-point conversion, cut it to a 1-score game. They give it back to the Eagles after trying to make them bleed the clock or use their timeouts, excuse me. And Lamar made a mistake, I thought, on third down. There was nothing there. He needed to slide in bounds, take the sack, forced the Eagles to either use their last timeout or allow that 40 seconds to bleed off the clock. He threw it out of bounds. It stopped the clock. They had a 17-second possession there when they should have been trying to eat that clock up, get a first down or so. So it really gave the Eagles an opportunity to get the football back with about 3 minutes left and a timeout. I think it might have been more like 2 minutes and some change, whatever the case may be. They were sitting pretty there, down 8. And I ridicule Doug Peterson because one, they missed a field goal. That's not his fault. They got a field goal attempt after a roughing the passer penalty right before a half, which would have been an interception, was negated. And now all of a sudden you're in a position to kick a 52-yarder before half and your kicker misses. That's not your fault. What is your fault though is early in the game, you score your first touchdown of the game, and inexplicably, this is I want to say it's a 17-0 game at this point, if I'm not mistaken. And you go for 2. Why? Why? Because you want to meet them at 24? You want to go for 2, 3 times in a row and tie it up at 24? What the hell are you doing, man? This is the same bullshit, and this is what happens when you get it right sometimes. When you get it right sometimes, then it validates bullshit and chicanery, and you think you're doing the right thing because you got it right one time, and so you keep doing the wrong thing even though you think it's the right thing. You don't understand what I just said? I'll make it simple for you. They went for 2 versus the 49ers on Sunday night when they didn't need to go for 2. It was a random ass, hey, y'all feel like going for 2? Sure, coach. All right, y'all stay out there, go for 2. It was like 9. Like, why are you going for 2? I think it made it like 11 to 3 or whatever the score was. Like, it was a random ass time to go for 2. And you're like, why did you go for 2 right there? Now they got it. So it didn't really hurt them, but you're like, what was the point of that, player? What's the psychological sense in that? You need to wash your face and get your damn mind right. So you just be going for 2 at random times. That's that Mike Tomlin bullshit that I don't really kind of subscribe to. At least when they had a prolific offense, he used to do stupid shit like that. Anyway, it came back to haunt his ass because if he didn't go for 2 early in the game and miss it, how many points did you lose the game by? It changes everything. Then you would have been down 1 late when you scored the touchdown. All you would have needed to do was tack on the damn extra point, and this game's going to overtime. Instead, you got to go for 2. You don't get it. You lose the game by 2 points. Stop going for 2 in random situations. We saw the Texans lose because of it. Now the Eagles lose the game because of it. Stop going for 2 when you don't need to. Anyway, I digress. Ravens survived this game. They made it a lot closer than they needed to be. They survived this game. A lot of penalties. The Ravens were really penalized in this game. My goodness. But they're 5-1, and the Eagles are now 1-4-1 after the 30-28 loss. Atlanta at Minnesota. I've always long said that you get a 1-week boost when you fire your head coach. You get a 1-week boost off of that. This was the Falcons' 1-week boost. They took full advantage. And I was waiting for that other shoe to drop this entire game. They win this game 40-23 over the Vikings. Both teams leave this game at 1-5. I was waiting for that other shoe to drop. I said, okay, you're up big early. It was like 20-0 at halftime. When are you going to start blowing this lead? Never happened. Kirk Cousins was awful in this game. I think he threw 3 picks in this game. I know he threw 2 in the first half for sure. His leash is getting really, really short in Minnesota because one thing that their head coach can't stand is turnovers because he's a defensive-minded guy. He's like, just give my defense a chance. And his defense isn't worth a damn right now, but it doesn't help when the other team's offense is getting short fields because the quarterback is turning the football over. But his defense isn't worth a damn right now. And so Minnesota's got their own struggles. They can't figure it out. No Dalvin Cook. They're not the same team. Atlanta goes in there. Matt Ryan was awesome in this game. There was a 4th down play where he runs like he's going to run for the first down. He backs away from the line of scrimmage and then the defender was coming up to get him. He slips trying to turn to get back to Julio, and he just tosses it over that guy's head right to Julio, who runs down the sidelines, runs in the end zone for a touchdown. Matt Ryan was awesome. It's funny. We had a conversation about Matt Ryan last week because I told you that their owner, Arthur Blank, was like, look, I'm not necessarily making this a package deal. You take this job. You don't have to be married to Matt Ryan if you don't want to be. I don't know who would take that job and not want Matt Ryan. Now, again, if you end up with the number 3 pick in the draft, maybe that changes things, You're staring at a couple of guys that might be some thoroughbreds, and you might be looking at Matt like, all right, man, I'm going to give you a year to allow the young boy that I just drafted to learn, and then we getting you out of here. That could be the case. They just scored too many points for me to see them ending up with a top 5 pick. I would be shocked if they ended up with a top 10 pick. They just scored too many points. They scored 40. They don't belong in this discussion of bad teams. They don't, but they just can't hold on to leads for whatever reason. We'll see if that changes because they can score. They did it again in this game. 40 points. They win 40-23. The Vikings are a mess. They really are. And whether Dalvin Cook is in the lineup or not, they're a mess. Now, I just think this is going to be a bad year for them. I told you that before the season started. I didn't think it was going to be anything worse than 8-8. I'm looking at them, and I don't think 8-8 is possible this year, especially in the division that they play in. They're going to lose to the Bears at least once, maybe twice. Detroit's looking at them and like, hey, why can't we eat? They're looking at Minnesota like food, and the Packers are going to sweep them. So they're in trouble, are the Vikings. Big time trouble this year. It could be a 6-10 year for them, which is so crazy because that's not usually a Mike Zimmer team. He just doesn't go 6-10. But we'll see what happens. Big win for the Falcons. They get off the schneid. They're no longer a winless team. Both teams leave this game at 1-5. Cleveland at Pittsburgh. This was not a surprise, but it was because of how well Cleveland was playing. But they got their asses handed to them, and this happened really quick. Baker throws a pick 6 to Minkah Fitzpatrick. It's 10-0 early out of the gate, and the onslaught continued. Another big catch in this game for Chase Claypool, who week after week continues to make huge plays for this Steelers football team. You get a walk-in touchdown from James Washington on a pump fake. They bit the pump fake, and nobody was home. And Odell Beckham, remember, came into this game a little banged up, a little under the weather, whatever the case may be. He was a non-factor. The entire offense was a non-factor. Baker, you could tell, wasn't right. They ended up benching him due to the rib injury. He wasn't playing well, but you could tell he was favoring. This felt like the benching of Jimmy Garoppolo a week ago versus the Dolphins, where it's more of a, hey, we trying to protect you from yourself type of deal. We're getting our asses kicked here. And make no mistake about it, that Steelers defensive line was peeling on his ass. They were after him. They were hitting him. They were banging him up. And he said, let me just get you out of here. Kevin Stefanski said, I'm going to throw in the towel. We'll live to fight another week. We're not coming back in this game. And they get run out of the building 38-7. James Conner with the big game. He ran for over 100 yards. This was just a complete, total, utter destruction. And the only thing that I can say about Cleveland, this is the second time that you've played a big boy in the division. Now, both on the road, I might add. But this is the second time you've played a big boy in the division and you got your ass run. Okay? You're the new kid on the block, and the OGs are still running the corners. Okay? They still slanging that dope on the corner, and you want some of that territory. That's not how you do it. And so all I'm telling you is, if you're going to step to these boys, you better come correct. Or as a wise man once told me, if you're going to come after the king, you better not miss. Well, that's the second time you tried to come after one of the kings of the division and your ass missed. And when you miss, you get dismissed. 38-7. You got beat up 38-6 earlier in the season by Baltimore. That's not a good look. But we can make excuses for you. I'm not. I just don't think you're ready. Period. End of discussion. Steelers dominate this game after looking a little sketchy last week, finding a way to win. They bounce back this week and take care of business in a major way, and are 5-0 on the season. Cincinnati at Indianapolis. Wow. Colts win this game 31-27, but not without a little strife. This game was 21-0 late stages of the first, early stages of the second quarter. At one point, it was 24-7. Colts scored 21 points in the second quarter, and Phillip Rivers, I talked shit about Phillip Rivers last week, and rightfully so. And I still stand behind mine. They're not going to win anything meaningful with Phillip Rivers at quarterback because you get good Phillip, like you did in this game, and then you get bad Phillip. And bad Phillip can't help but rear his ugly head at the most inopportune time. So eventually Phillip will be back to turning the football over, but he was masterful when they needed him to be in this game. And there were some throws in here. Drugstore cotton soft. Mwah. I mean, just drop them in the box throws. Where you're like, man, that's some good shit, man. I'm feeling you, Phils. They needed him to step up in this game, and he did. And you know, that late touchdown to Jack Doyle, the game winner, the touchdown to, what is my man's name? Gosh, I can't remember his name, but that was a hell of a throw too, you know, in tight coverage. Phils did his thing in this game. He gave them a chance to rally back. The defense, which was really suspect early, they tightened up and played the defense that has allowed this Colts team to get off to the start that they've gotten to this season. And they, after a 21-point first quarter, maybe 21-point first 16 minutes of the game or so, they allowed 6 the rest of the game. And that's the defense that I know Indianapolis to have, not the defense that I saw early in this game that was allowing a rookie wide receiver to get up the field, down the sidelines, down to the 1-yard line on a 66-yard catch and run. Like, that's not the defense that I fell in love with earlier this season. So they got back on their horse. They got back on their colt. And they shut down Joe Mixon. He was a non-factor in this game. As a matter of fact, he got banged up in this game. And they took it to Joe Burrow, picked him off. And I'm telling you right now, I love Julian Blackmon. I told you about him on the rookie wall in week 4. Julian Blackmon had an exceptional performance. I want to say it was week 4. That was the Bears game, if I'm not mistaken. He had a pick in that game, and he was flying around the field. And I said, it's not going to be long before Julian Blackmon finds the rookie wall. He may have found the rookie wall. Another big-time pick, a game-clinching pick for Julian Blackmon to put this one away as the Colts come from 21 down in this ball game and defeat the Cincinnati Bengals 31-27. Again, if you want the rookie wall, Patreon is where you got to go. All right, become a patron, and you'll have access to the rookie wall, among other things, the NFL's best peak performers, all of that good jazz. Patreon is the way to go. But I love me some Justin Blackmon, the rookie safety out of Utah. He comes up big, and the Colts escape a really bad loss, 31-27, get to 4-2, stay within shouting distance of the 5-0 Tennessee Titans. And for the Cincinnati Bengals, another heartbreaking loss, another tough loss, another opportunity. You could easily be 3-3 right now. When you look at this schedule, you could have won this game. You could have beat Philadelphia. You could be sitting here at 3-3 at 500. Instead, you're a young team. You don't know how to win these types of games, and you're now 1-4-1 on the season. Detroit at Jacksonville. These two teams stink. Detroit came off their bye, fresh, ready to bust some ass, and Jacksonville looked like a ripe candidate for that ass busting, and that's exactly what they did. Matthew Stafford, this was a hard-hitting game. Like, this is one of those games where, because there's not a bunch of fans, even though Jacksonville's got over 10,000 fans in the stands, you can hear everything. A lot of contact, a lot of physicality. Like, goddamn, it's a lot of shoulder, popping, a lot of pad popping going on, a lot of helmet. It was a lot of hitting going on. That being said, a lot of the hitting was going on Detroit's end, and a lot of the dropping was going on the Jacksonville side of things. I don't believe in Detroit. I never have. I probably never will. You guys know that. I've talked about them already. But this was impressive because they took it to Jacksonville early and often. It was like, look, we don't even want you to think you have a chance in this game. So we're going to jump out on top of you early, and we're going to jump on top of you often, and we're going to make sure that by the time we get to the fourth quarter, you're dead. Dead, I tell you. And they did a pretty good job of putting these boys' dicks in the dirt and putting them to sleep early. And they get the win 34-16. I thought Stafford was outstanding in this game. He spread it around well. Man, is Kenny Golladay good. He throws a jump ball after they got an offside. So he says, let me chuck it up. That's what all the good quarterbacks do. Throw it down the field 40, 50 yards. You got a free play. And Kenny Golladay just goes up and gets it, man. I love Kenny Golladay. Man, is he good. He's just got to stay healthy. When he's right, there aren't many better receivers in the league. Like, people sleep on Kenny Golladay. When we start making our list, best receivers in the league, I'm going to start pushing him up my list a little bit. He's a hell of a wide receiver. Anyway, they get the win 34-16. Do the Detroit Lions. Jacksonville isn't good. They're just not good. And they make the kind of mistakes that make you shake your head because they got a chance to not be as bad. Like, Gardner Minshew isn't trash. He's not great. He's like above average. You can win with above average in this league, but everything else around him must be really good. And they're not good defensively. And they make too many mistakes. Turnovers. He had a fumble in this game. He had a pick in this game. There's too many mistakes. Anyway, Detroit now 2-3 on the season. We'll see if they can build off of this win. That's a good performance off the bye week if you're Detroit. Meanwhile, Jacksonville is 1-5, and they're heading straight for a top 5 pick and a brand new quarterback and a brand new head coach in Jacksonville next season. We'll see. It's still early, but it's not looking good for the Jaguars as they lose 34-16. Chicago at Carolina. This was going to be a good game because it's two really solid defensive teams. I think Chicago's elite defensively. I think Carolina's really good defensively. This is exactly what I expected, 23-16. Not a lot of points. The team that makes the least amount of mistakes is going to win. The thing about Teddy Bridgewater this season is, for as good and as a calming influence as he's been for that team, he's turned it over this year. That's been his bugaboo. And he had some turnovers in this game. He got away with one. Looked like a pick six was thrown, and there was a penalty on Chicago. I think they called pass interference on Kyle Fuller that negated a Eddie Jackson pick six. But the turnovers are the issue for Carolina. When they lose, you go straight to the turnover category, and usually that's where the game was won or lost for them. And this was another one of those games where they had some turnovers, and it cost them in this game. But Nicholas Foles, everybody wants to replace him. How can we upgrade Chicago's quarterback situation? He's just finding ways to win, just like Mitchell was early in the season. He's just finding ways to win. You don't have to do much when your defense is as good as this defense is. They're healthy right now. They're flying around. I love their secondary. I love what Tashawn Gibson is fitting in, just like last year when Clinton Dix came in and fit in. Tashawn Gibson is fit in like hand in glove, and they're just flying around out there. I love the rookie corner out of Utah, Jalen Johnson. He's playing exceptional ball opposite of Fuller. That secondary is gelling and meshing together. They can get after you with their defensive front with Mack and Akeem Hicks and all of those guys that they throw at you. I thought that acquisition of the defensive end from Dallas, Quinn, has been great for them. They just got a bunch of dudes, man, that can get after you. I love their linebackers. They're fast. They're physical. This is a good group. They're among the best defensively in the NFC. We saw it against Tampa Bay on a Thursday night. You see it again here on the road at Carolina. Big win for the Bears as they get it done 23-16 over the Panthers. The Panthers aren't as bad as I thought they were. They're going to be around this season. They're going to be 8-8. They're going to be 7-9. They're going to be 9-7. Somewhere in that 7-9, 9-7 window. It wouldn't shock me if they claimed the 7th seed in the NFC playoffs. They're well coached. They're disciplined. The only thing that will be their undoing is the mistakes. They turn it over too much. When they take care of the football, they can win games just like this. 23-16, that was the final score of their win over the Falcons last week. The difference, they didn't turn it over last week. They turned it over this week. They lose the game 23-16. Bears get to 5-1 on the season. Meanwhile, the Panthers drop to 3-3. And don't look now. With the Packers loss, the Bears are now in first place. A half game over the Packers, who had a bye week. So this Bears team not going away. And this is going to be an interesting division to watch as it continues to unfold. You get to the Washington football team versus the Giants. Last year, this was the Chase Bowl. This year, it was the Trevor Bowl. I don't think Washington is going to be in that discussion when it's all said and done. Most fans of the team don't want to hear that, but Washington had every chance to win this game, and this is why they're bad. And this is why I told you they could easily end up with a top 5 pick. I don't think they will, but they could because the Giants stink. Watching this game, it reinforced it for me. Their offense is tragic. Their defense is just good enough to keep them in ball games, to give them a chance if the other team wants to implode, which is why they're 1-5. Because the defense is good enough to give them a chance. But they're not going to play teams that are as bad as Washington is every week. So because the defense is going to give them a chance, their offense is so bad, they're going to lose the game anyway. just like they did against the Rams. The defense kept them in that game, gave them a chance. It was 10-9, and the offense was so bad, they threw a pick at the end of the game and they lose 17-9. That's going to be the story of the Giants. The Steelers game, week 1. Defense kept them in the game. Offense throws a tragic pick at the goal line. They lose that game. Daniel Jones throws 3 interceptions. That's the story of the Giants. They're bad on offense, man. They are horrible on offense. But the defense isn't that bad. And they're going to give them opportunities against teams that struggle to score. And if the offense can just do enough, they can win. But the offense can't. But guess what? Washington imploded. 14 points for the Giants off of turnovers. That's been the story for Washington this year, is they give up points off of turnovers like nobody's business this year. They don't get enough turnovers back in return, and they turn it over, and usually their turnovers turn directly into points. 14 of the Giants, 20 points in this game. Think about that. One was a scoop and score. The other was a turnover that gave the Giants a football on the plus side of the field, and Daniel Jones throws a beautiful ball. I can't take that away from him. Throws a beautiful third down ball to Darius Slayton in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. But both of their touchdowns in this game came off of turnovers. Washington has to take care of the football. But even with all that being said, Kyle Allen calmly takes them down the field late in the game, throws a touchdown pass. Ron Rivera decides to go for 2. It's the right decision to me. Most fans up and, oh my God, you can't go for 2, kick the extra point. They haven't scored, but 6 points. I think might have been even 3 points in the second half. They haven't moved the football. That's fine and dandy. All it takes is one. All it takes is one big play. And this defense is capable of giving it up. I love the decision. You're on the road. You're trying to make a statement. Beat these boys right now. Go for 2. He did. And I didn't like the play call. There are so many different ways that could have went. I didn't like the play call. The Giants get the stop. They win the game 20-19. Good for them. Good for Joe Judge. I like him as a head coach. I really do. But if you're a Washington fan, this is a heartbreaking loss because you were the better team. You had no business losing this game, but you did. And that's the mark of a young team that's still trying to figure it out. So both teams leave this game at 1-5. Man, is this division bad. Washington had a golden opportunity to really make things interesting in the NFC East. Instead, they dropped to 1-5, and shit's still wide open in the NFC East, especially if Dallas loses tonight to Arizona. Shit's still wide open in that division, but you had a chance to really make things interesting. Instead, you dropped to 1-5 on the season. Denver at New England. This was the biggest surprise of the day for me. I thought when this game got pushed back to week number 6, that was in favor of New England. It turned out to be wrong. They got both Cam Newton and cornerback Stephon Gilmore back for this game. Both of those guys would have been out had this game been played last week. So I thought benefit and advantage, Patriots. Well, those guys come back and the Broncos don't give a shit. Remember, they had won the last time they played. They haven't played in a very long time. They had a bye and a half. If you recall, they played on a Thursday night. They were supposed to play last Sunday. Patriots have the outbreak. They shut down their facility. They pushed the game back to week 6. So in essence, the Broncos are coming off of a week and a half off. So they're feeling really good. And really 2.5 weeks since they last played a game. So they're feeling really good. And they came out and they took it to the New England Patriots. I was shocked. 18-12 is the final score. Broncos get the win on the road in Foxborough. Patriots and Broncos leave this game at 2-3. The last time the Patriots were under 500 after 6 weeks of football, you got to go all the way back to 2002. Yikes! Zoinks! Scoob! So this was a big one. Denver dominated this game from the start to the finish. I was amazed. They came out. Drew Lock throws a deep ball to Tim Patrick early in the game, sets the tone offensively. It was good to see Philip Lindsay back. He ran it very effectively, and the defense really took it to New England. You know what I learned in this game? And, we talked about how the whole COVID situation was going to change the game for some of these teams and how, not having practice could really affect you. Well, it didn't affect Tennessee last week. So I said, you know what? No excuses. Tennessee showed us that you don't need a whole bunch of practice to come out and kick somebody's ass. New England didn't have practice, a bunch of practices. It doesn't matter. Find a way to get it done. What this showed me, though, is if they can't run the football, they're in trouble. Because when you got Olashansky and Zubik out there as your receivers, that's who you throwing the football to, you're in trouble. They got nothing out there. Nothing. I just told you that they got Gunnar Olshansky and some guy named Zubik at receiver. They got nothing out there at receiver. They literally have Julian Edelman and a bunch of Jags running around. And they got to run the football to be effective. And Denver shut that shit down. Turned that faucet completely off. And Cam had no answer for him by himself. They're in trouble because their offense is what I thought it was. Remember I told you, man, I was wrong about their offense. Remember after week 1, I said this team is going to be offensively challenged because they're going to rely too heavily on Cam's legs and the run game. After week 1, when I watched them struggle with Miami, and I didn't know how good Miami was going to be, I just said Miami looks better to me. I said that after week 1. Miami is much improved. We'll talk about them next. However, I said after week 2, when they went to Seattle and put up 30, I said, okay, maybe I was wrong. You know, I should never doubt Josh McDaniels and his ability to be a chameleon and camouflage and morph into whatever needs to be done week in, week out. I was right the first time. I shouldn't have second guessed myself. This offense has to run the football to be effective. They cannot throw it. That 400-yard performance that he almost had against Seattle, we later found out Seattle's defense is fraudulent. Everybody's throwing for damn near 400 against them, not just Cam. We found something out. Denver said, you're not running the ball. If you're going to beat me through the air. They were up 18-3 in this game, or 18-6 in this game, something along those lines. They were dominating these guys. New England's in trouble. This was impressive by Denver. I don't know if they can sustain this, though. Drew Lock came back. He was okay. He wasn't sharp, but he did enough. And the key was he didn't turn it over. He didn't make the back-breaking mistake that the Patriots rely on. They're relying on you to self-implode so that they can take advantage and find a way to win, like the Raiders did a couple of weeks ago, where that game was that game was close, and then the Raiders imploded. Special teams gaffe, pick 6, game over. Broncos didn't do that. They didn't make the big mistake. They ran the football, and they made New England have to throw it. And they're not built like that. Big win for the Broncos. They get to 2-3 on the season. Big loss for the Patriots. You're not winning this division. Not only are you not winning this division, I said this before the season started, you're not even a playoff team. It's a big loss. You're now 2-3 on the season. Jets at Dolphins. Man, was this a bad game. Dolphins did what they were supposed to do. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 3 touchdown passes in the first half. This game was 21-0 at halftime. The Jets are so bad. They are 0-16 bad. I said that at the top of the show. They've got infighting going on between their head coach and their defensive coordinator. The players look like they're out there just going through the motions. Joe Flacco was out there. It was bad. Man, was it bad. Let me tell you how collectively, as a game, this was how bad it was. 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Neither team had converted a third down. That's right. We're 6 minutes left in the ball game. 54 minutes of a 60-minute ball game has been played, and neither team has completed a third down conversion. The two teams combined for 3 of 27 on third downs in this game. And at one point, neither team had converted a third down. I can't make this stuff up, guys. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. But the Dolphins did what they needed to do. Put these boys out of their misery early. Take them out back, into the first quarter, into the second quarter, and put the silencer on, and just make it quick. Put the pillow up there, put the silencer on, and just end it, man. And that's what they did. Like, don't string this thing out. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Just take them out back, lay them down nice and easy, and keep it pushing. They did that. They win this game 24-0. The big story here is Tua Tagovailoa gets in. That's how bad. You don't put a guy in 24-0 normally. But the Jets are so hopeless, they weren't coming back. And they knew it. They put Tua in at the end of the game. Ryan Fitzpatrick's over there on the sidelines getting everybody hyped because they had like 11,000 fans in the stands or whatever. So he's telling everybody, get up. And it was loud. When Tua came in the game, it was loud. It sounded like a packed house. And it's good to see him get on the field. And eventually it's going to be his team. But the Dolphins are playing good football right now. They're 3-3. Remember, this is a team that started the season off 0-3. They've now since won 3 in a row. All right, this is a scary Dolphins team. They're scary, man. Look out for them. That's all I'm going to say. Beat Jacksonville, then went to San Francisco and won. I think there was a Seahawks game in between that. I don't think they've won 3 in a row. I think they've won 3 out of their last 4. Doesn't matter. They're back to 500. And their head coach, Brian Flores, has those boys believing. Jets are a train wreck. They've got to fire Adam Gase, so they will go 0-16. Green Bay at Tampa Bay, biggest surprise of the day. Did not see this coming. Green Bay leads this game at 4-1. Tampa Bay leads this game at 4-2 after the 38-10 drubbing of the Green Bay Packers. The Packers score the first 10 points of this game, and from that point forward are outscored 38-donut. They put a 38-0 run on those boys, and they were lifeless. They never responded. I got the defibrillator in the mid portion of the third, like, hey, can I bring these boys back to life? And Aaron was like, bruh, I'm limp over here, man. Just leave me alone. Come back and see me next week. Fine. This felt like Green Bay versus San Francisco last year. It was sickening to watch. The thing I've realized with Green Bay, and I talked about it last night on the Sunday night overtime program, is when they get off script, what Matt LaFleur has showed me is he's incapable of getting his team back on task when they get off of the script. When they're able to execute and be balanced and run it and go play action fake, they look unstoppable. But when you punch them in the mouth and you tell them you can't run the football anymore, and for whatever reason, whether you actually stop their run game or you jump out on top of them so much so that they got to go away from the run game, when you make them deviate from what they want to do, right now they're incapable of making the adjustments necessary to remain competitive. It doesn't happen very often because Aaron Rodgers is under center. You're not going to jump on these boys very often because Aaron Rodgers is the equalizer. He usually finds a way to keep things respectable. But when you get a dominant team that can play defense and can score, like we saw with San Francisco last year in those 2 games, and we saw in this game with Tampa, this team can be rattled and they can't overcome being knocked off of schedule. They have to run the football. They have to protect Rodgers, and they weren't able to do either of those things. Now, they actually did run the football effectively, but because the second quarter happened, they couldn't run the football in the second half. This was 10-0, and then Rodgers throws a pick 6, and everything changed. They scored 24 unanswered in the second. They scored another 14 in the third, and this game was over. Rob Gronkowski went apeshit. They had no answer for Ronald Jones. They were flustered. The offense couldn't protect. And yeah, look, I understand. You know, their left tackle left this game. It was never the same. I understand. They couldn't protect Rodgers. He looked uncomfortable. He was missing guys wide open. I talked about Mercedes Lewis wide open over the middle. When does Aaron Rodgers ever miss that pass? Never. He was rattled. And Ndamukong Suh was being dirty with him and physical. He didn't like it. They were blitzing him. They couldn't protect him. He was all over the place. Aaron Rodgers hadn't thrown 2 interceptions in the same game since 2017. Think about that, man. 2017, it's 2020. They were all over his ass. The Packers have to find a way to be tougher when shit gets tough. Right now, they seem mentally fragile when shit gets tough. They're so used to being front runners that when they got to play from behind and they got to go off script, they seem incapable right now. On Tampa Bay's side of things, man, this was impressive. God damn it, Tampa. I didn't see this coming. I knew you were capable. I told you, you and Chicago are the 2 teams in the NFC that can play defense, and that's going to be uncomfortable for some teams. Because it's one thing when you get into a shootout and you're out there, like Green Bay doesn't mind getting into a shootout. Seattle doesn't mind getting into a shootout. You get uncomfortable when a team says, Now, we're not doing that 38-35 shit. How about we play this game in the 20s? You good with that? That's when teams get uncomfortable. You're capable of beating somebody 27-17. There aren't many teams in the NFC capable of doing that. When your defense is biting, like they were biting, man. When they're biting like that, I don't know if anybody else in the NFC wants any. Now, again, Chicago beat you, and they're capable because they can get after Brady. I thought Green Bay would be able to get after Brady a little bit better than they did. They didn't get after Brady at all. You have to give credit to your offensive line in this game because he was protected. He was throwing BBs and darts to Gronk. Some of those throws? Are you kidding me? Seriously, Tom? Are you sure you're 43? Let me check your ID, man. Let me see some ID, son. Let me see some identification. Some of those throws, ridiculous. Ridiculous. This was impressive. I didn't see it coming, and I might be wrong about Tampa Bay. I'm almost ready to admit I was wrong. I'm not going to do it yet, but this kind of performance, I'm pretty sure I'm wrong at this point. They're not a 9-win team. They're not going to just barely miss out on the postseason. None of that bullshit I was talking about before the season started. This might be the best team in the NFC. I'm not ready to declare them that yet, but they're not far off. This was impressive. 38-10, they rout the Green Bay Packers, do the Buccaneers. Rams at 49ers, we did this last night, so I'm not really going to get into the specifics of this. You want that, you go to that video. But 24-16, big win for the 49ers. They own Jared Goff. For whatever reason, Goff doesn't play well versus the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't lost 2 games in a row in his career. Now, in 30 games, he's never lost back-to-back games, and he did not lose last night. They get back to 500 through the 49ers with the win. It was a big win. They needed it. Jimmy played well. And Goff and company the Goffense wasn't in sync for whatever reason. Cooper Kupp, I talked about that being a cold cup last night. Normally, the best part of waking up, the Rams Cooper Kupp. Well, that cup wasn't hot last night. You didn't have to blow that cup. You didn't have to blow that cup last night. Cooper Kupp was cold last night. And for whatever reason, they couldn't get on the same page. And so, big win for the 49ers. Get back to 500. They're not dead yet. They stuck their hand up through the dirt like The Undertaker. Meanwhile, for the Rams, you leave this game asking questions like, who are you really? Because you played 6 games. Your 4 wins have come against the NFC East, which no one in the division has a winning record. The 2 teams you played outside of the division, you lost both games. And I just want to know, who are you, really? Because really, this score isn't indicative of how they were dominated in this game. They scored late and made it interesting, and then if they had gotten the football back, things might have gotten really interesting, but they were dominated in this game. It was 21-6 for much of this game. They were dominated. Big win for 49ers as they stay competitive in the NFC West. So that's going to take us to garbage time. And we're going to go ahead and get to this garbage time real quick because we got ourselves 2 Monday night games, or 2 games on Monday. Chiefs at Bills has already started. I think the Chiefs are going to win this football game. They lost last week, and I think they're a little salty. They got a little salty taste in their mouth. I don't think Mahomes is a guy you get 2 times in a row. I think the Chiefs were exposed a bit on defense last week because the Raiders got over the top of them, and John Brown is active for the Bills this week, and they looked like a different team without him being active a week ago versus Tennessee. So he gives them the ability to stretch the football field vertically. Not that Stephon Diggs doesn't, but he's been doing the underneath intermediate dirty work. John Brown is the guy that you want to get behind the defense, and if I'm Buffalo, I'm dialing up a few shots against that Chiefs secondary that was exposed last week against the Raiders and seeing if you can't hit some big plays. What's going to be key is that you don't turn it over, you don't give the Chiefs any short fields, and you limit the explosive plays. If you make Kansas City earn it, I've watched some teams make them have to methodically work their way down the field. They can do it, they just don't want to. They want the chunk play. And if you take that away, you can maybe force them into some things that they don't want to do. So that's going to be an interesting game. I think Buffalo's going to have a shot, but at the end of the day, I think Kansas City is the better team, and they will prevail in that football game. Same could be said for the Monday night game. I think the road teams are going to show up in these 2 games. Arizona is a team that I look at and I say, if you're serious, you need to win this game. And I'm not sure about Arizona right now, because they started off hot like gangbusters. Then they looked like a team that was kind of coming back to earth a bit. You know, everybody was blowing their head up. MVP for Kyler Murray. This is the dark horse team in the NFC. You know, and I said, you guys are crazy. They're not that good. They're young. They're still young. And then they lost 2 in a row. Lost to Detroit, lost to Carolina, and that Carolina loss was ugly. Then they get a win against the Jets, who's not beating the Jets. So I'm not really sure. This is a real good test for them, because Dallas, despite the record, Dallas is capable, fully capable. And we know they can't stop a nosebleed, but they can score with the best of them. So Arizona's going to have to do some things in this game. 1, they're going to have to score. 2, they're going to have to be able to slow down Dallas's offense, not stop them, and not having Chandler Jones is huge against a banged up Cowboys offensive line, but they're going to have to find a way to slow those boys down. Andy Dalton, let's see, can you rattle his cage a bit? Let's see, can you slow down Zeke Elliott? We're going to find out if life without Dak is any different. Because if it's not, Zeke Elliott will have 14 carries tonight, and they'll lose this game giving up 37, and they won't win time of possession. If life without Dak is different, then Zeke Elliott will have 24 carries tonight. They'll win time of possession. They'll score 31, and Arizona will only score 20, and they'll win this game. We'll see. We'll see. I think, though, the former, not the latter, is the case, because I don't think Mike McCarthy is capable of running the football effectively. Thus, I think Arizona is able to possess the football a ton tonight. That Cowboys defense is on the field way too much, and they give it up, and they lose this game, 37-30. That's the kind of game I see. But we'll see. Should be fun. Both of these games I think we'll enjoy. And thus, that is going to do it for this installment of the Louie Tee Network podcast. I do have a super chat. I do need to knock that out before we go. Got a super chat here from Vincent Cole. Thank you for the super chat, Vincent Cole. Appreciate you. Who writes, keep doing your thing, OG, showing some love. I really appreciate you, Vincent Cole. You are OG in your own right, because you've been with me for a very, very long time. So I appreciate you, Vincent Cole, as always. You guys enjoy the football. We'll come back. We'll break down this first of 2 games on Monday when it meets its conclusion. And I'll see you for that. And then I'll see you for Cardinals, Cowboys afterwards. If you're a Washington fan, or you're just a fan in general, you can join the Washington Mob Squad if you'd like. If you're not a Washington fan, probably not the place you want to be. But I'll be watching that game live, and we'll be chopping it up with the Mob Squad tonight. If you haven't joined the group, what are you waiting on? The link is going to be down in the description of this video once it meets its conclusion. But in any event, I'll be watching that game live and chopping it up with you guys in the community chat on Flick. So if you haven't downloaded the app and joined the community, what are you waiting on? Do that. The link is in every single video that I upload. So check that out if you dare. Anyhow, I'm going to glide to the side and allow you guys to enjoy this football. You've heard enough from me today. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys later on tonight and into the week. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not, I repeat, not the best NFL coverage it could be. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care.
Louie Tee Network.